Alright, I don't have much of a voice right now, as you can hear, because I've currently lost it with the cold that I got. So I'm going to try to keep this short, and I apologize for the sound quality of my voice. That said, I tried multiple times to make a video of me reacting to watching Hocus Pocus 2. I've tried this multiple times. First, the night that Hocus Pocus 2 premiered on September 30th, I tried to set up a projector to watch it and make it nice and big in my bedroom. And at first the projector didn't work, and then when I got it working, logistically it didn't work with the settings in my bedroom. And by the time I got the kids to bed and figured out everything with the projector, then there was an issue with my phone because I couldn't record either the TV or the view from the projector and film my reaction at the same time. So that was a big fat flop, and I got all psyched to watch Hocus Pocus 2, and then it was just a big failure. So that was super frustrating. So I did record me reacting to watching Hocus Pocus 2, but it's just me. You don't actually get to see the video as I'm reacting to it. I apologize that you can't also see the scenery in the movie that I'm reacting to. The second time I tried, I have an app on my phone that is like a screen capture, so I could watch the video on my phone and simultaneously also film myself with a phone camera to show both Hocus Pocus 2, me watching it and reacting to it at the same time. It wasn't my first viewing of Hocus Pocus 2 at that point, but at least you'd get to see both the video and my reactions. Well, that failed spectacularly. I didn't realize it until I went to go edit the video later, but Disney Plus in all their copyright glory did not allow technologically the recording of their movie. So you'll see my face, and you'll hear the movie, but you won't see the movie. And when I went to go edit the video, it was just pretty much a big black screen with my tiny face in the corner reacting to it. So that was a fail. So I just zoomed in on my face so that once again you could just see my reaction. So this is my third attempt, at least, trying to film my reaction and opinion to Hocus Pocus 2. It has been frustrating trying to make this video, and there are several times where I almost gave up completely. I will say that I did not hate Hocus Pocus 2, and there are a few little enjoyable moments, but in the grand scheme of things, I did not largely enjoy it. There were many things that I nitpicked and that I didn't like about it, and you will see that after my introduction. You'll see my reactions to stuff. I'll, edit it and pick out my funnier reactions and comments and stuff. And I also found a website, a news article that someone wrote that pinpointed pretty accurately what the main problems of Hocus Pocus 2 are. So I'll go over those as well. So following this introduction are my reactions to watching Hocus Pocus 2, both the first time and the second time, bits and pieces. It's not like the whole movie throughout. You'll hear the movie, you won't see it. I'm sorry, I tried to record the movie as well and it just didn't work. It's been super frustrating. I feel like this movie has just been cursing me trying to review it and does not want to be shown. So I did my best for what I was able to get. I hope you enjoy this video. And the next time I do a reaction video, if I do, hopefully it will go a lot smoother than this, because this has been a big, long, painful process, and I've had to watch this movie more than once, which I didn't really want to do, and I didn't hugely enjoy it. It's not the worst movie in the world, but I definitely have many faults with it, and I think Disney could have done better. The actors and actresses, God bless them, they tried. Bette Midler, for what she was, did her best, and God bless her for trying. But overall, not a huge fan of this movie. So here come my opinions, and then I will kind of sum things up near the end.
I do like how the Disney logo kind of made it look Halloweeny. I like that. That's cool. That's a nice touch. Chocolate or vanilla? Chocolate or vanilla? I'll go with vanilla first. Orange. She just left her house and went right back in. Apparently, if she always had that weird bouffant hair thing going on, even as a kid. Jello. She made Jello. Okay, I will say this young actress is channeling Bette Midler's character pretty well. So I'm noticing I'm not seeing parents for these three just yet, and I'm kind of wondering if they explain that. Not really sure why the whole town is in on this, but. So even as a kid, she stuck her teeth out like that. Hmm. So she got banished forever because she wouldn't marry some guy. I mean, I know things were different back then, but even so. Again, wondering where their parents were in all this, because it's not like they just popped out of the ground. They did have birth parents somewhere. I mean, that's how I'd react to a big spider, but that guy is like flipping out. It's not like it was a tarantula. It was a big spider, but it wasn't like a tarantula, so I don't know why he reacted like that, but I'm trying to wrap my head around this so far. Like all this trouble, well, most of this trouble, because she wouldn't marry the preacher's son. Oh, a calming circle. Okay, you brought that back, did you? I wonder if they're gonna have Mary, Kathy and Jimmy's character, do that twisted mouth thing the whole entire movie. Like I know she did it in the first movie, but I don't remember her doing it like constantly. But I don't know. That dress with a big eye on it is a little much. I know they're trying to be like, this is a witch! But I feel like this is a little much, but okay. That eye is really distracting for me. I'm sorry. I feel like even for a stereotypical 1600s reverend, I feel like this reverend character is really over the top. Like, I get what they're trying to do with him, but I still feel like he's really ridiculous. Really? No offense to whoever performs this song, but we gotta add like the hip hop song in there. Really? I'm sorry, it's just a little silly for me, but I get it. They're trying to reach a younger audience too, not just people who like the original movie. But I just feel like it kind of takes away from the movie and cheapens it a little. But okay, we could be hip. So are you guys friends with her? Or are you not friends with her? I'm not sure. Is she one of those people that just hangs around you so you're nice because you're too nice to tell her to go away because you don't like her? I don't know. So are you guys friends or are you not friends? I'm not quite sure. Because either you grew apart and she's kind of in a different clique now, which fine, or you're still friends but you don't like each other. Like I don't quite know how to really read that relationship between those three. Now everyone's in costume, even though in that other class only one other student was in costume. Okay, they're at the carnival, but still, like, dude, I can tell what they're going for, but if one of my friends or ex friends' dads acted like that around me, I'd be a little weirded out, especially as a teenager. I'd be like, we need to leave, bye. Yeah, because teenagers love handing out campaign flyers. I'm gonna pause this for a second because my question is I want to know what happened to Danny and Max's parents when they got home and they realized that their house did not have a roof on it because the three witches blasted out of it. And all those kids that Sarah enchanted with the song that were halfway across Salem. Dude, if I woke up across uh, my hometown as a kid, I wouldn't know how to get home. I'd be freaking out. And like I know Salem is kind of sort of a smaller town and parts of it are very quaint, but like still like even if you can poo-poo all the stuff with the witches and explain it away, part of Danny and Max's house exploded. So like I don't know how they explained that one to their parents or how all the kids explained not being home and be some of them were in their pajamas and stuff like that. But I know I asked too much out of a kids movie. I'm just saying like oh yeah, and three kids definitely stole the Sanderson sisters' brooms at one point in the other movie. So I kind of want to know what they ever did with those brooms because those were clearly actual magical brooms. But you're really pushing that black cat thing, huh? Like I get it, but at the same time, we know it's not the same black cat. So I know they mean well, but I have been to parts of Old Salem, and while I don't know Salem like the back of my hand, because I don't, I definitely did go to school there for 2 years. I saw the Witch Museum, I saw downtown Salem, and like they still had roads. So, I know there are parts of Salem that are very old, and they kind of tried to keep the style of like the 1600s and such, but it's not like old Sturbridge Village where like, they have cobblestone roads in some parts of Salem, but it's not like, there's just dirt and grass. Like come on, guys. I don't expect it to be like 100% accurate, but like I call my mom Susan. I'm so intelligent and woke. So are you guys friends with her or not? Like I know you kind of grew apart and that's what you're trying to say. And I'm sure you'll be friends by the end of this movie again. But it seems like you're really annoyed by her presence sometimes and then you want her there other times. And I kind of get why, but still. The flame is black. Is that the moon that's behind them? Because that is a huge looking moon. Like a Bruce Almighty moon. Like the moon is not that size. What are you singing for? What is happening? Like I get why they sang in the first movie and they made it work and it was cool. Now I'm just confused. That was just weird. And I feel like I should have liked that, but I kind of didn't. It just weirded me out. They don't seem all that surprised at all that they're back. And you'd think they'd be like, oh, we're alive again. Considering they kind of blew up at the end of the last movie. I feel like I'm very aware that I'm watching older actresses right now. The witches, I mean. Mary can smell children, so couldn't she smell that they're not 40? I wonder how much Walgreens paid to have their name mentioned in this movie. And I can promise you, on Halloween, unless it's after 9 p.m., those streets would not be empty in Salem, Massachusetts. Those are some very empty streets, considering. I know how these three acted in the first movie, and I feel like I'm very aware that the actresses came back to act like their former selves. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I feel like they're trying to act like their former selves. God bless them for trying, but I feel like they're just not. Again with the mouth thing. They didn't know what a road was in the first movie, but they knew to pose for a phone, which they wouldn't even know what that is. So salt was used against him in the first movie, and they kind of knew what salt was. So why they didn't seem to know what salt was in this? Ha 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 ha! She has Roombas because they sell those at Walgreens. I get it because she had a vacuum in the first movie. Again, I'm very aware that I'm watching CGI in this movie. And I know there has to be some because there's only so much you can do with practical effects. But, they're trying, but, I'm not hugely impressed. What? What is going? They're very accepting of this guy that gave them the book that is just standing there. And dude, you knew what the Sanderson sisters did and what they were like, so you're like, I'm gonna be your best friend. And it's like, even if you knew they were magical, you also know that they tried to kill a bunch of kids, which you were too. Like, even if, like, I got picked on a lot as a kid, I still wouldn't help a bunch of witches that also ate kids. Was he the Reverend in the beginning? He was so over the top I didn't even notice if it was the same actor or not. Now I'll have to watch the beginning again just to see if it was that actor. Well, she said the book doesn't like that spell. What is happening? The book didn't seem to care when she was turning an innocent boy into a cat and killing a bunch of kids. I mean, in theory. But oh no, not the power spell. I want to like this. I do. But I'm just not digging it. It's not the same freaking cat. Yeah.
I'm talking to the book.
Like, they were killing kids before, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't the first one they had ever done that to in the first movie. So I don't know why Book all of a sudden went to this other chick.
Couldn't even finish the
Again,
power
what is
spell.
up with
And
Sarah
now it's too
Jessica's
late.
legs there? That she's
We
just
have
like,
your book.
whoop, like, she didn't show that much leg in the last movie.
Need a book.
This whole movie happens, and they barely did anything to, like, torture Salem. At least in the first movie, they had a good chance at, like, actually, like, conquering Salem. This one, they're just fighting with these guys more. And it seems like kind of
The warning.
a waste of time.
I think I.
Yeah, so, okay, so they didn't finish the spell, so I don't know why the other two suddenly got powerful when they weren't before.
It's such sweet parting. Bye-bye. I think it is my heart.
I'm
I fear it is breaking. Oh, I'm nothing without my sisters.
She didn't seem to feel that way the first movie. But, okay.
Book chose you.
This, to me, is still the woman that was willing to kill kids in the first movie to be young and beautiful and live forever, kind of a thing. And then, like, the Mother Witch, which is like, why was she even in here? Like, I mean, I know why, but, like, why?
Now listen up. When we fly, the way that you'll die. Whoa.
See, I think this song would have been better during, like, the townspeople
Yeah, the
stage
witches,
thing
the witches are back.
than the one that they sang.
Meanies as a matter.
Like, I get during the other song, it was, you know, one way or another, gonna get the, you know, get that. But I still feel like this one would have been much better in the middle of the movie than the other one. Alright. Gonna skip to the end scene. Stupid cat. I'm sorry. Okay, I know you guys probably love him, but I just thought it was a stupid thing to put in the movie. Why are you showing the cat's reaction like he knows about it? I mean, like, knows. I'm gonna turn this off and give my final thoughts.
Okay, so you've seen what I had to say, at least most of it, the main bits, about Hocus Pocus 2. Now, before I really get into my final thoughts, I just wanted to read from an article by Adrian Tyler of MSN, because I really felt like it summed up how I felt a little bit better. I'm not always the most succinct person, I know, shocker of the year. But her points were actually very good, so I just wanted to read from her article because I thought that she made some very good points about why Hocus Pocus 2 was not the most successful. The article is called Hocus Pocus 2 Backlash, and I'm not going to read like the whole thing word for word, but I'll just read kind of her main points as to why she thought that Hocus Pocus 2 was lacking. The first one is the Sanderson sisters' backstory fell short, which I agree with. So she goes into the backstory a little bit, which if you've seen the movie, you know what it is. Where, you know, the Reverend and they meet Mother Witch and she gets warned about Magica Maxima spell and stuff. She said, unfortunately, that's all there was about the Sandersons' backstory, as Hocus Pocus 2 then cut to 2022 and didn't reveal more about the sisters' journey through witchcraft after getting the book. This flashback also made way for inconsistency in Winnie's story with Billy Butcherson, but more on that later. Agreed. They showed only a small snippet of their backstory. Now, granted, I don't expect them to show their whole lives, or anything like that. I understand the movie's going to be 2 hours or less, and that most of the movie is not necessarily going to be focused on their backstory. But they choose to include backstory, and the little that they did show, I feel like, raised more questions than they actually answered. So that was kind of annoying. Her second point, the Sanderson sisters weren't evil enough in Hocus Pocus 2. I definitely agree with that. I understand the world is different than 29 years ago, and that there's a different audience and there's different expectations, and that you can't necessarily have the same evilness and humor that you did in 1993. But they definitely kind of toned down on some stuff, and I feel like it was to their detriment. Because you're expecting the Sanderson sisters to be a certain way, and they weren't, not fully. She says, Sanderson sisters were the fun antagonists of Hocus Pocus. Their main goal was to get as many children as they could to take their life force. Mary and Sarah used their unique powers to get Salem's children, with Mary being able to smell when a kid was nearby, and Sarah using her voice to lure children to the cottage. Although the Sandersons returned, and they should have been looking for some revenge after their defeat in 1993, Hocus Pocus 2 turned down the Sandersons' evil and made them a lot softer and more comedic. The story this time relied on more sisterhood and the bond between the sisters rather than on their evil plans and acts, and these changes weren't well received by the audience. Again, agreed. They were toned down, and even if you wanted to tone it down for a different audience in today's day, I feel like you still could have conveyed evilness without changing their character, and their characters definitely felt somewhat different than the tone in the previous movie. Point number 3. Hocus Pocus 2 relied too much on nostalgia. Yes, they totally did. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the nostalgia of Hocus Pocus. I do. But the second movie did rely too much on the nostalgia from the first movie, and it shouldn't have been the crutch that it was in the second movie. She says, it was almost unavoidable for Hocus Pocus 2 to take advantage of the nostalgia attached to it. True. This was one of the strengths of the movie, as many viewers welcomed the nostalgic elements attached to Hocus Pocus 2, such as flashbacks to the events of the first movie and many similarities between the plots of both, but many others felt this played against it. The premise of 2 was pretty much the same as the original, and while it worked for the most part, many viewers expected a fresher story for the Sandersons' return, so the nostalgia factor played both in their favor and against it. Yes. I get it, the first movie was great, and that's why there was a second movie, but you cannot rely so heavily on the first movie to do most of the storytelling of the second movie, because then it kind of cheapens it. Next point. Hocus Pocus 2's story was messy. Totally agree. She says, along with the lack of evil in the sisters and the nostalgic factors in it, the story had too many subplots and not enough time to properly explore each one of them. Yup. In addition to the return of the sisters and their plans to cast the spell to continue living after Halloween, Hocus Pocus 2 followed the broken friendship between Becca and Izzy and Cassie, the reveal of Becca being a witch, which left many questions as it's unknown why she got powers, Gilbert and Billy's brief subplot, and the Sandersons' hunt for Jeffrey Trask, the mayor of Salem, Cassie's father, and descendant of the Reverend Trask. Hocus Pocus 2 jumped from one subplot to the other and left most of them without a proper conclusion and failed to explore them, leaving many unanswered questions. Yeah, definitely agree with that. They were trying to put too many different little things into the movie when I feel like they should have been looking more at the bigger picture. And I felt like they were running around and almost wasting time with certain parts of the movie when they should have been moving the story forward, but not with these weird little side plots that didn't really go anywhere. So, kind of dumb. Hocus Pocus's 2 jokes felt forced. Yeah, they did. To me, anyway. Another big complaint is the sense of humor and jokes. Bringing the sisters to 2022 made way for a variety of jokes about how these women from the 1600s would react to technology and more of the present day, and how easily manipulated they could be, as Max did in the first movie. But unfortunately, most of the jokes were just updated ones of the versions in the original movie. In addition to that, the comedic moments from the new cast felt forced and exaggerated, giving Hocus Pocus 2 an uneven tone. Tony Hale, who played the Reverend and the Mayor, I know he tried his best, but I felt like he was over the top. And I don't mean funny over the top, I mean way too much over the top, where it felt like he was really trying to be funny and wacky. And again, that just took away from the overall tone of the movie. That kind of wrecked it a little bit for me. And not even just him. But again, as they said, a lot of the jokes felt forced, like, this is funny, we know it's funny, and we have to make sure you know it's funny. And it's like, all right, calm down. Now, I know I'm an almost 40-year-old woman watching this movie, and I'm not necessarily the target audience. They're also trying to get kids in on it too. And what kids find funny is not always going to be the same stuff that I find funny, and vice versa. I get it. But they were really trying hard, really, with those jokes, and it did show, and it didn't come across well. Hocus Pocus 2 was missing too many original characters. With Hocus Pocus confirmed to be in development back in 2019, and the addition of the return of Midler, Najimy, and Parker, fans of the original movie hope to see the return of Max, Danny, and Allison. Unfortunately, it was confirmed in early 2022 that they, along with Thackeray Binks, Ice, and Jay, the bullies, wouldn't return for the sequel, and this turned out to be true. I was disappointed that pretty much none of the original cast, actually I shouldn't even say pretty much, other than the witches, none of the original cast really came back. Now, I don't know if it's because Disney didn't invite them, or they did, and the actors turned it down, or there just wasn't a story for them. I don't know the exact reasoning, but I was disappointed to see that a lot of the main cast, other than Billy and the sisters, did not return. I feel like they could have struck some kind of homage to them in there somewhere, and for them to not even be mentioned, their characters or anything at all. And I don't mean just like talking about how, oh, the Sanderson sisters were after some teenagers. I mean, for the characters specifically to not be mentioned or something to be put in there for them, I feel like that was kind of doing them dirty. She continues, in a strange contradiction with the complaints about Hocus Pocus relying, the second one, relying too much on nostalgia. Another complaint was the absence of the original characters, of which most of them could have had a place in the story. The complaints only grew after the new characters, while not bad, failed to connect with the audience the same way that Max, Danny, and Allison did. I agree. I know the teenagers that were in the movie were trying, and I know you can only do so much with the writing that's given to you, but again, I didn't have the same love for them that I had for the original characters. For the characters, you were rooting for them, you wanted to see them do well, you wanted to see what would happen to them and the conflict with them and the witches. In the second one, the teenagers and the witches, I almost didn't even care. I was just, and again, I know I'm an adult watching it now, not a kid, but still, if you're targeting both adults and kids with your movie, ideally, you have to make people care. Or at least make a really good attempt at making them care. I didn't really care about these teenagers. I knew it was a Disney movie. I had it on pretty good knowledge that the teenagers were gonna win, but I wasn't even really rooting for them to win. I was just kind of like, all right, we'll see what happens. That's not how it should be. Hocus Pocus 2's Winnie and Billy had some big inconsistencies. Agreed. She says, although the flashbacks to the Sandersons' younger years in Hocus Pocus 2 fell short, they made for big inconsistencies in the story of Winifred and Billy. Now, the whole Winifred and Billy backstory thing wasn't a big part of the movie. It really wasn't a big part. It didn't make a huge difference in the story. But if you're going to put it in there, you have to expect people to comment on it and pick it apart. In Hocus Pocus, it was revealed that Billy was Winnie's boyfriend who cheated on her with her sister Sarah, so Winifred poisoned him in 1693, only to be resurrected in 1993 to help them, but Billy instead took Max and Danny's side. The second movie saw the return of Billy, as the Sandersons needed his head for the spell, and he explained that he wasn't put back to sleep in 1993, so he'd been waiting for the right moment to rise again. So he was just laying there this whole time. I mean, like, dude, even if you don't die and you don't need food and like a bathroom and stuff, you're still laying there for 29 years, just laying there, where you can't sleep and you can't rest. I mean, This time, however, Billy insisted over and over again that he and Winifred had only kissed once, which was mentioned by young Winnie in the flashback, leaving a bunch of questions about what exactly was their relationship, the supposed cheating with Sarah, and why he was killed. Now, I know what they were trying to get at was that the story that we knew about Winifred and Billy was not actually what happened. They didn't have a romance. Billy says they only kissed once, and, you know, but how does Sarah enter into that? Is that something that, kind of like in the telephone game, that people just kind of evolved and made up over time? Or is that something that was supposed to be part of the actual story and they just never covered it? I don't really know. In addition to that, at the end of Hocus Pocus 2, when the Sandersons faded away, all of Winifred's spells were broken, allowing Billy to finally head to his eternal rest. But this should have happened in the first movie when the Sandersons' defeat broke Thackeray Binks free. Yes, that didn't occur to me right away the first time I saw the movie, but the second time I saw it, I kind of went, wait a minute. And I realized that. Why didn't he disappear at the end of the first movie, like he did at the end of the second movie when the Sandersons were defeated? If the Sandersons were ultimately defeated in the first movie and Thackeray was freed as a result, he should have been laid to rest then. There's no reason why, other than, oh, we're going to bring him back for the second movie. You know, there's no reason why he should have still been around. And again, I know they put him in there for fan service and stuff like that, but story-wise, it looks lazy when you have inconsistencies like this. And I know this isn't going to be like an Emmy Award-winning movie or anything like that. I understand that. And they weren't even trying to make it like an award winner. But if you want it to be even relatively good, you have to think of stuff like this. And I understand when they made the first movie, they weren't necessarily expecting to make a second movie. But when you decide to put him in the second movie decades later, and you have to explain why he's back or how he's back or things like this, you have to do it in a way that's not lazy or doesn't have big plot holes in it. And the way they described it and made the story fit, it didn't work. Overall, Hocus Pocus 2 was not a horrible movie. I've seen much, much worse movies, but there are many inconsistencies, and this article really put a pin on, sorry for the lawnmower, someone else is doing that. This article really put a pin on what I thought were some of the biggest problems with the movie. Again, not terrible, but there were some big problems that could have been easily fixed. And if they had all this time to work on this movie, they had the time to kind of smooth these wrinkles out. It could have been better. I didn't love that I had to watch it twice. Is it going to be a Halloween staple for me? Probably not. The first movie will, because I enjoyed the first movie a lot more. Not just because I saw it as a kid, but even as an adult, having a different point of view as an adult than as a kid, I still enjoy watching the first movie. The first movie isn't perfect, but I can enjoy it, despite any flaws that it has. This movie, I find myself continuously thinking about the flaws and getting distracted by them. And Disney, for all the money you have, all the time, and all the resources, you should have done better. And people were expecting better from you. So, shame, shame. Come on, but guys. All that being said, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching the whole thing if you've watched it this far. Again, I know it was not the smoothest video. I know I had problems with it and it did not go the way I wanted. And like I've said, it took me like 2 or 3 times of trying to do this video over and over again to get some semblance of a video that I wanted to finally release on YouTube. Hopefully the next time I do a reaction video, if I do, it will go a lot smoother and it won't be this big cluster duck of an issue. So thanks for watching. If you liked watching this video, please like and subscribe to my videos. I've gotten a few more subscribers. Thank you to those who have joined. Thanks you to those who continuously watch me. I hope you liked Hocus Pocus 2 better than me. And hopefully I'll have at least one more video before Halloween is released, but just in case, because I cannot predict the future, if I don't see you until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful Halloween. I hope it's nice and spooky for you, and I will see you next time.